Rebecca Morgan was in the middle of a client presentation at her downtown Boston law office when her phone started vibrating on the conference table. She glanced down and saw her twin sister Emma's name flashing on the screen. It was 2:47 p.m. on a Tuesday in October, and Emma never called during work hours. They had an unspoken rule: texts during the day, calls in the evening, unless it was an emergency. Rebecca ignored the call, continuing her presentation to 3 corporate executives who were considering a merger. Her phone buzzed again immediately. Then again. On the 4th call, Rebecca's senior partner, Richard Chen, gave her a pointed look. "I'm so sorry," Rebecca said, her face flushing. "My sister. She never calls like this. Something might be wrong. Can you excuse me for just one moment?" She stepped out of the conference room, her heart already racing. Emma and Rebecca had been inseparable since birth. 34 years of shared experiences, shared feelings, that inexplicable twin connection people always talked about. When one of them was in trouble, the other always knew. Rebecca answered the call as she walked quickly down the hallway toward her office. "Emma, what's wrong? I'm in the middle of—" The scream that came through the phone was unlike anything Rebecca had ever heard. It was raw, primal, filled with terror and pain. Emma's voice, but distorted, desperate. Becky, help me. Please, someone help me. Emma, where are you? What's happening?" Rebecca's voice rose to a shout. People in nearby offices looked up, concerned. "The car, the bridge, I can't." Emma's voice cut off abruptly, replaced by a sound that might have been wind or rushing water or static. Then more screaming, more words Rebecca couldn't make out. Then nothing. The call ended. Rebecca immediately called back. It went straight to voicemail. She called again and again. Nothing. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely hold the phone. She called Emma's husband, David. "David, something's wrong with Emma. She just called me screaming about a car and a bridge. Where is she? Is she okay?" There was a long, terrible pause on the other end. Then David's voice, thick with emotion. "Rebecca, the police are here. There's been an accident. Emma's car went off the Tobin Bridge. They're searching the water now, but—" The phone slipped from Rebecca's hand. The world tilted sideways. The fluorescent lights in the hallway were too bright, the walls too close, the air too thin. Someone caught her as her knees buckled. Her assistant, Maria, who'd heard the commotion. "Call 911, Rebecca heard herself say, though her voice sounded far away. "My sister. Accident. Tobin Bridge. Mrs. Morgan, the police are already there," Maria said gently. "Your brother-in-law said they're there. Let me drive you. You can't drive like this." The drive to the bridge felt both endless and instantaneous. Rebecca sat in the passenger seat of Maria's Honda, staring at her phone, at Emma's name in her recent calls. The call had come at 2:47 p.m. The call log showed it clearly. Emma Morgan, mobile, 2:47 p.m., duration 42 seconds. When they arrived at the scene, it was chaos. Police cars, fire trucks, a Coast Guard boat in the water below. The Tobin Bridge stretched across the Mystic River, connecting Boston to Chelsea, and somewhere on that bridge, Emma's car had gone over the railing. Rebecca stumbled out of the car before Maria had fully stopped, running toward the cluster of emergency vehicles. A police officer stopped her. "Ma'am, you need to stay back." "That's my sister, Emma Morgan. Where is she? Is she okay?" The officer's expression softened. "Are you Rebecca Morgan?" "Yes." "Where's Emma? Where's my sister?" "Come with me, please." The officer led her to an ambulance where David sat wrapped in a blanket, staring at nothing. He looked up when Rebecca approached, and the expression on his face told her everything she needed to know before he said a word. "They found the car," David said, his voice hollow. "They're bringing her up now. But Becca, she's gone. She was gone when they found her. They think she died on impact when the car hit the water." "No," Rebecca said. "No, that's not possible. She called me. She called me at 2:47. She was screaming for help. She was alive." David looked confused. "What?" "Rebecca, the accident happened at 11:30 this morning. I've been here since noon. The police called me at 11:45. She's been gone for over 3 hours." Rebecca pulled out her phone with shaking hands, showing him the call log. Look at this. Emma Morgan, 2:47 p.m. today. She called me. I talked to her. She was screaming about a car and a bridge and... David took the phone, staring at the screen. His face went pale. That's impossible. The medical examiner said she died around 11:30. Maybe 11:45 at the absolute latest. She couldn't have called you at 2:47. But she did. I heard her. She was terrified. She was screaming my name. Rebecca's voice broke. The world was spinning again, nothing making sense. A detective approached them, an older man with gray hair and kind eyes. I'm Detective James Sullivan. I'm so sorry for your loss. Mrs. Morgan, I understand you received a call from your sister this afternoon. Yes, at 2:47. Here, look. Rebecca showed him the phone. Detective Sullivan examined the call log carefully. Can I listen to the voicemail? There's no voicemail. The call connected. I talked to her. She was screaming. Mrs. Morgan, I need you to think very carefully. Are you absolutely certain you answered this call and spoke to your sister? Or is it possible you missed it and there's a voicemail you haven't checked yet? Rebecca opened her voicemail. One new message from Emma's number, timestamped 2:47 p.m. With trembling fingers, she pressed play. The scream that came through was exactly as Rebecca remembered. Emma's voice, terrified, desperate. Becky, help me, please. Someone help me. The car, the bridge, I can't. Then nothing. The message ended. I answered it, Rebecca insisted, though doubt was creeping in. I'm sure I answered it. I heard her in real time. Mrs. Morgan, Detective Sullivan said gently, sometimes in situations of extreme stress and grief, our minds can play tricks on us. You were probably unconsciously expecting a call, and when you saw her name, your brain convinced you that you'd answered it when really it went to voicemail. But how did she leave a voicemail at 2:47 if she died at 11:30? That's what we need to figure out. The detective made some notes. Could someone else have had access to her phone? Her husband, maybe? David shook his head. Her phone is still in the car. They haven't recovered it yet. It's underwater. Detective Sullivan frowned. That doesn't make sense. If her phone is in the submerged vehicle, it couldn't have made a call. Cell phones don't work underwater. Now, could it have been recovered earlier? Another officer suggested. Maybe the car was partially above water at first? No, the dive team leader interjected, having overheard the conversation. The car went straight down. It's been completely submerged since impact. We've had eyes on it the whole time. Nobody's been near it until we started the recovery process 10 minutes ago. Everyone was quiet for a moment, trying to make sense of the impossible timeline. Could she have made the call before the accident? Rebecca asked desperately. Maybe she sensed something was wrong, called me, but it didn't go through until later. Cell phone calls don't work that way, Detective Sullivan said. They either connect in real time or they fail. They don't get delayed by hours. Could someone have cloned her phone? David suggested. I read about that, people stealing phone identities. We'll investigate that possibility, the detective said, though his tone suggested he didn't think it likely. Mrs. Morgan, I need to ask you some questions about your sister. Had she seemed troubled lately? Any indication she might have been suicidal? No, both Rebecca and David answered simultaneously. Emma was happy, Rebecca continued. She and David just found out they're expecting. She was excited about the baby, making plans. She was pregnant. The medical examiner, who'd been standing nearby, looked up sharply. The preliminary examination didn't indicate pregnancy. 8 weeks, David said. We just confirmed it last week. We hadn't told anyone yet except Rebecca. The medical examiner made a note. We'll do a more thorough examination. Sometimes early pregnancies can be difficult to detect in preliminary assessments, especially in cases of traumatic death. Rebecca felt the tears finally come, hot and overwhelming. Emma was dead. Emma was pregnant and dead, and somehow she'd called 3 hours after dying, screaming for help that would never come. I need to understand what happened, Rebecca said, wiping her eyes. The call, the timing, all of it, nothing makes sense. We'll get to the bottom of this, Detective Sullivan promised. In the meantime, Is there someone who can stay with you tonight? You shouldn't be alone. Rebecca nodded numbly. Her husband, Marcus, was on a business trip in California, but he was already on his way to the airport. Her parents were driving up from Providence. She wouldn't be alone, but she felt alone. For the first time in 34 years, her twin sister wasn't just a phone call away, and the last phone call she'd received had been impossible, inexplicable, a final scream from beyond death that made no logical sense. As the sun began to set over the Mystic River, crane operators worked to lift Emma's car from the water. Rebecca stood at the bridge railing with David, watching the vehicle emerge. A silver Honda Accord, mangled and dripping. Through the shattered driver's side window, Rebecca could see a shape wrapped in white cloth. Emma. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. For one wild, impossible moment, Rebecca hoped it would be Emma calling again. But it was just Marcus texting that he'd landed and was on his way to the bridge. Rebecca stared at her phone, at that call log entry that shouldn't exist. Emma Morgan, mobile 2:47 p.m., duration 42 seconds. She'd heard her sister's voice. She was certain of it. But everyone was telling her it was impossible, that Emma had been dead for hours when that call came through. So what had really happened at 2:47 p.m., and why had Emma's last message reached her sister 3 hours too late? The next morning, Rebecca woke in her childhood bedroom at her parents' house in Providence. For a moment, she forgot why she was there. Then it crashed over her. Emma was dead, and nothing made sense. Marcus was asleep beside her, having arrived after midnight. Her parents were downstairs, their murmured voices carrying up through the old house. Rebecca picked up her phone from the nightstand and looked at the call log again, as she'd done obsessively all night whenever she couldn't sleep. Emma Morgan, mobile, 2:47 p.m. Detective Sullivan had asked her to send him the voicemail recording. She'd done it before leaving the bridge, forwarding the file to his official email. Now she played it again, turning the volume down so she wouldn't wake Marcus. Becky, help me. Please, someone help me. The car, the bridge, I can't." The voice was definitely Emma's. Rebecca knew her twin's voice better than her own. Every inflection, every tone, every breath. It was unmistakably Emma. But the quality was strange, now that she listened with a clearer head. There was an echo to it, a distortion that didn't quite sound like a normal phone call. And the background noise, that rushing sound. What was that? Her phone rang, making her jump. Detective Sullivan. "Mrs. Morgan, I hope I'm not calling too early. I wanted to update you on what we've found so far. Please tell me anything. I need to understand what happened. First, the medical examiner confirmed that your sister died approximately 11:30 a.m. yesterday. The cause of death was drowning, complicated by severe head trauma from the initial impact. She was unconscious when the car entered the water. There was no pregnancy." Rebecca felt her stomach drop. "What? But she told me last week the test was negative. There's no evidence of pregnancy, current or recent. I'm sorry." Rebecca's mind reeled. Emma had shown her the positive pregnancy test. They'd celebrated together, cried together, made plans. Had Emma been lying? Why would she lie about something like that? "Second," the detective continued, "we examined your sister's phone. It was recovered from the vehicle this morning. The phone was completely water-damaged and non-functional. According to our technical team, it would have stopped working the moment it was submerged. There's no way it could have made a call hours later. Then how? That's what we're trying to determine. We contacted your cellular provider. They confirmed that a call was made from your sister's number to yours at 2:47 p.m. yesterday. But Mrs. Morgan, the call didn't originate from your sister's physical phone. It came from somewhere else." Rebecca sat up straighter. "What do you mean?" "Someone was able to spoof your sister's phone number. They made a call appear to come from her number, but it actually originated from a different device." "Who would do that? Why?" "That's what we need to figure out. Mrs. Morgan, I need to ask you some difficult questions about your sister. Did she have any enemies? Anyone who might want to hurt her?" "No. Emma was a second-grade teacher. She was the kindest person I've ever known. Everyone loved her. What about her husband? Were there any problems in their marriage? David, no, they were happy. They've been married for 6 years. They had a good relationship. You're absolutely certain? No financial problems, no infidelity, no arguments. Rebecca hesitated. She'd been so certain yesterday, but now doubts were creeping in. Emma had lied about being pregnant. What else might she have lied about? I don't know, she admitted. I thought I knew everything about my sister's life. But apparently I didn't know she wasn't actually pregnant. Maybe there were other things she didn't tell me. We're looking into all possibilities, Detective Sullivan said. One more question. The voicemail message. Does it sound scripted to you? Rehearsed in any way? Rebecca played it again in her mind. Becky, help me, please. Someone help me. The car, the bridge. I don't know, she said slowly. It sounds terrified, real, but maybe? Why would it be scripted? I'm not saying it is. I'm just exploring all angles. Thank you for your time, Mrs. Morgan. We'll be in touch. After he hung up, Rebecca sat there trying to process everything. Emma had lied about being pregnant. Someone had spoofed Emma's phone number to call Rebecca hours after Emma died. None of it made sense. She went downstairs, where her mother was making coffee, and her father sat at the kitchen table looking 10 years older than he had 2 days ago. They'd lost a daughter, and Rebecca had lost half of herself. "Honey," her mother said, pulling her into a hug. "How are you holding up?" "I don't understand what's happening," Rebecca said. "The police say someone faked Emma's phone call, and she wasn't pregnant. She lied about being pregnant." Her parents exchanged a look that Rebecca couldn't interpret. "Mom? Dad? Did you know something?" Her father sighed heavily. "Rebecca, there's something we need to tell you. We were waiting for the right time, but I suppose there's no right time for news like this." Rebecca sat down, her heart pounding. "What? Emma came to us 3 weeks ago," her mother said. "She was very upset. She told us that she and David were having serious problems, financial problems mostly. David had made some bad investments without telling her, and they'd lost most of their savings. She was worried about losing the house. She never told me any of this. She didn't want you to worry. You know how Emma was, always trying to protect everyone else, even when she was the one who needed help. And the pregnancy?" Her mother looked pained. "Emma desperately wanted a baby. She'd been trying for 2 years. Every month was heartbreaking for her. We think maybe she convinced herself she was pregnant before taking the test. Or maybe she took a test, saw what she wanted to see. Or maybe she lied," Rebecca said quietly. "Maybe she knew the test was negative but told me it was positive anyway. But why?" Her father shook his head. "We don't know, sweetheart. Emma had been acting strange lately, distant, stressed. We thought it was just the financial pressure, but now we have to consider that maybe her death wasn't an accident," Rebecca finished. The words tasted bitter in her mouth. "The police asked us about that too," her father said. "They wanted to know if Emma had seemed suicidal. I told them absolutely not, but—" He trailed off. "But you're not sure," Rebecca said. "I'm not sure about anything anymore." Marcus came downstairs, still in his pajamas. "Morning, everyone. Rebecca, how are you feeling?" "Confused, angry, sad, everything." She turned to him. "Did Emma ever say anything to you about problems with David? About money troubles?" Marcus hesitated. "About 2 months ago, she called me. Asked if I could recommend a good divorce lawyer. Said it was hypothetical, just in case. But then she never brought it up again, so I figured they'd worked things out. She was considering divorce, and nobody told me. She made me promise not to tell you. She said you'd worry, and you were dealing with stress at work. She wanted to handle it on her own first." Rebecca felt a surge of anger mixed with grief. Her twin sister, her other half, had been keeping massive secrets from her: financial trouble, marriage problems, fake pregnancy. What else hadn't Emma told her? And then there was that phone call. Someone had deliberately called Rebecca from Emma's number, playing a recording or speaking words designed to make Rebecca think her sister was dying in real time. Someone had wanted Rebecca to hear Emma's terror, but who and why? Rebecca spent the rest of that day making calls, trying to piece together the parts of Emma's life that had been hidden from her. She called Emma's best friend from college, Sophie Chen, who now lived in Seattle. "Sophie, it's Rebecca. I don't know if you've heard." "I heard," Sophie said, her voice thick with tears. "I'm so sorry, Becca. I can't believe she's gone. I was going to fly out for the funeral." "Sophie, did Emma talk to you recently about anything unusual?" There was a pause. "Define unusual." "Money problems, marriage problems, anything she might not have told me." Another pause, longer this time. "Becca, Emma made me promise not to tell you. She was really adamant about it. She's dead, Sophie. Whatever promises you made to her don't matter anymore. I need to understand what was going on in her life." Sophie took a deep breath. "Okay, yes, Emma told me about the problems with David. But it wasn't just money. She found out he'd been having an affair." Rebecca felt like she'd been punched. "What?" "About 4 months ago. Some woman from his gym. Emma found text messages on his phone. She confronted him, he admitted it, said it was over, begged her to forgive him. She wanted to forgive him, wanted to save the marriage. That's why she started talking about having a baby. She thought if they had a child together, it would fix things." "Did David know she wasn't actually pregnant?" "I don't know. Maybe. She was not in a good place, Becca. The last time we talked about a week ago, she sounded really off, paranoid almost. She said she thought someone was following her, that strange things were happening. Her car had been broken into twice in 1 month, but nothing was stolen. Someone had been calling her phone and hanging up. She felt like she was being watched." Rebecca's blood ran cold. "Did she report this to the police?" "She said she tried, but they told her there wasn't enough evidence to do anything. They thought she was just stressed and imagining things." After hanging up with Sophie, Rebecca immediately called Detective Sullivan and relayed everything she'd learned. The affair, the fake pregnancy, Emma's paranoia about being followed. "This changes things," the detective said. "We need to have another conversation with David Morgan. Would you be willing to come to the station?" An hour later, Rebecca sat in an interview room at the Boston Police Department while Detective Sullivan brought David in. David looked terrible, unshaven, wearing the same clothes from yesterday, eyes red from crying. "David," the detective began, "we've learned some new information, and we need to ask you some follow-up questions. Anything. I want to help. I want to know what happened to Emma. Were you aware that your wife was experiencing paranoia in the weeks before her death? She told friends she felt she was being followed, that her car had been broken into multiple times." David nodded. "Yeah, she mentioned it, but I thought she was just stressed. We'd been having some financial troubles, and I thought the pressure was getting to her." "Were you having an affair, Mr. Morgan?" David's face went pale. He looked at Rebecca, then back at the detective. That was over. It ended months ago. It was a mistake, a stupid mistake. I told Emma everything, and we were working through it." "Did Emma forgive you?" "I thought so. She said she wanted to work on our marriage. We were trying." "Were you aware that Emma told people she was pregnant?" "Yes. She showed me a positive test 3 weeks ago. We were both excited." "Mr. Morgan, the medical examiner confirmed that Emma was not pregnant. There was no pregnancy, current or recent." David looked genuinely shocked. That's not possible. I saw the test. It was positive." "Did you actually see her take the test, or did she just show you a used test?" "She just showed me the test." "But why would she lie about that?" "We don't know," Detective Sullivan said. "Mr. Morgan, where were you yesterday morning between 11 and 12? "At work. I'm a regional manager for a tech company. I was in meetings all morning. I have dozens of witnesses." "And you didn't leave the building at any point?" "No. I was there from 8 a.m. until the police called me at 11:45 to tell me about the accident." "Do you know anyone who might have wanted to hurt your wife?" "No. Everyone loved Emma. She was a teacher. She spent her life helping kids. Who would want to hurt her?" "Someone called Rebecca Morgan from your wife's phone number at 2:47 p.m. yesterday, 3 hours after Emma died. The call was spoofed. It didn't actually come from Emma's physical phone. Do you have any idea who might do that?" David shook his head. looking bewildered. "No, I don't understand any of this." After David left, Detective Sullivan turned to Rebecca. "What do you think?" "I don't know," Rebecca said honestly. "He seemed genuinely surprised about the pregnancy lie, but Sophie said Emma didn't trust him anymore after the affair. Maybe Emma was right to be paranoid. Maybe David was planning something. We're looking into his finances, his phone records, everything. If he's involved, we'll find evidence. But Rebecca, I want you to consider another possibility." "What?" "What if Emma made that recording herself? What if she planned the whole thing? The fake pregnancy, the paranoid statements to friends, even her own death? What if she wanted it to look like murder? Why would she do that?" "Insurance money. Revenge against David for the affair. To punish him. There are a lot of reasons someone might stage their own death to look like murder." Rebecca felt sick. "You're saying my sister committed suicide but set it up to frame her husband?" "I'm saying it's a possibility we have to consider. The recording that was sent to you, we've analyzed it. It was definitely Emma's voice, but the way it's phrased, the specific words she used, it sounds rehearsed, like she was reading from a script, and the timing is suspicious. Why send it exactly 3 hours after the accident? Why not immediately if someone was trying to torment you? 3 hours suggests planning, a delayed send, an automated system." Rebecca didn't want to believe it, but she couldn't deny that it made a horrible kind of sense. Emma had been lying about the pregnancy. Emma had been acting paranoid. Emma had been facing divorce, financial ruin, betrayal. Maybe she'd decided to end her own life, but frame David for it in the process. But that didn't sound like Emma. The Emma Rebecca knew would never do something so cruel, so calculated, would she? "I need to go to Emma's house," Rebecca said. "I need to see if there's anything there that might explain this." "We've already searched the house," Detective Sullivan said. "We didn't find anything suspicious. Please, let me look. I knew Emma better than anyone. If there's something there, I'll find it." The detective hesitated, then nodded. "Okay, but I'm coming with you." Emma and David's house in Malden was a modest colonial with a small yard and a white picket fence, the kind of house that represented everything Emma had wanted out of life. Family, stability, normalcy. Rebecca stood on the front porch, key in hand. She'd always had a key to Emma's house, just as Emma had a key to hers, and tried to prepare herself for going inside. The house felt empty in a way that had nothing to do with physical occupants. It felt like a shell, a stage set for a life that no longer existed. Rebecca walked through the rooms slowly, Detective Sullivan trailing behind her, looking for... what? She wasn't sure. Emma's purse was on the kitchen counter, exactly where she must have left it before getting in the car that last morning. Inside were the usual things: wallet, keys, lipstick, a pack of gum. Nothing unusual. Rebecca moved to the home office, where Emma kept her laptop and files. The desk was neat, but not abnormally so. Bills in one stack, school papers in another, a calendar with appointments written in Emma's careful handwriting. "Can I turn on her computer?" Rebecca asked. "Go ahead. We already imaged the hard drive." Emma's laptop opened to her desktop, a photo of Emma and David from their wedding day, both of them young and happy and in love. Rebecca felt tears prick her eyes. That had been real once. When had it stopped being real? She opened Emma's email, scrolling through the recent messages, mostly school-related, emails from parents, curriculum updates, a message from the principal about an upcoming staff meeting. Then Rebecca saw something that made her pause, an email from Emma to herself, sent at 11:15 a.m. on the day she died. The subject line was blank. The message contained only a link to a cloud storage account. "Detective, look at this." Sullivan peered over her shoulder. "Click on it." The link opened to a private folder containing video files, dozens of them, all dated over the past 3 months. Rebecca clicked on the most recent one, dated the day before Emma died. Emma's face appeared on screen. She was in her car, holding her phone up to record herself. Her eyes were red from crying, and she looked exhausted. "Hi, Becca," Emma said to the camera. "If you're watching this, It means something happened to me. It means I was right to be scared." Rebecca's breath caught. Beside her, Detective Sullivan leaned closer. "I need to tell you everything I've been keeping from you," Emma continued. "I'm sorry I lied about the pregnancy. I'm sorry I didn't tell you about David's affair, about the money troubles, about any of it. I thought I could handle it on my own, but I can't. I'm in over my head." Emma took a shaky breath. "David didn't just have an affair. He's involved in something illegal. Financial fraud, I think. Money laundering. I found documents on his computer, offshore accounts, fake companies, transactions that don't make sense. When I confronted him about it, he told me to stay out of it, that I didn't understand what I was looking at. But I do understand, Becca. I understand that he's involved with dangerous people." Rebecca felt her stomach turn to ice. "I started noticing I was being followed about 6 weeks ago," Emma continued. "At first I thought I was paranoid, but then my car was broken into twice. Nothing stolen, but someone went through my glove compartment, my trunk. They were looking for something. I think David told them I knew too much. I think they're trying to scare me into keeping quiet." "Then why didn't she go to the police?" Rebecca interrupted the video, looking at Sullivan. "Why make videos instead of getting help?" "Keep watching," he said grimly. On screen, Emma wiped her eyes. "I tried going to the police, but I don't have proof. Just my suspicions and some documents I don't fully understand. And David's been so careful. Everything is hidden behind shell corporations and offshore accounts. I tried calling the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit, but they told me I needed more concrete evidence before they could investigate." Emma glanced around nervously, as if checking to make sure she was alone. "I'm documenting everything in these videos. If something happens to me, if I die in an accident or a suicide, you need to know it wasn't an accident. David and his partners killed me to keep me quiet. Don't let them get away with it, Becca. Please, don't let my death be for nothing." The video ended. Rebecca and Detective Sullivan sat in stunned silence. "There are 23 more videos," Rebecca said, scrolling through the folder. "All of them made over the past 3 months. This changes everything. Emma didn't commit suicide. She was murdered. We need to watch all of these," Sullivan said, already pulling out his phone to call for backup. "And we need to bring David Morgan back in for questioning. Rebecca, I need you to not go home tonight. Is there somewhere safe you can stay, where David wouldn't think to look for you?" "Why? Do you think I'm in danger?" "If Emma was killed because she knew too much, and if the people who killed her find out about these videos, then yes, anyone who's seen them might be in danger. We need to move carefully here." Over the next several hours, Rebecca and a team of detectives watched all 23 videos. Together, they told a horrifying story. Emma had discovered that David was involved in a money laundering scheme for an organized crime syndicate. He'd been recruited 3 years ago through his gym, the same gym where he'd met the woman he'd had an affair with. The affair had been planned, a honey trap to compromise him and make him vulnerable to blackmail. Once they had him, they'd forced him to use his position at his tech company to create fraudulent transactions that funneled criminal money through legitimate-looking business accounts. Emma had started to suspect something was wrong about 6 months ago, when their personal finances suddenly seemed better, despite David claiming they were having money troubles. She'd investigated and found evidence of his illegal activities. When she confronted him, he'd broken down and told her everything, but by then it was too late. The criminal organization wouldn't let him quit. They'd told him that if he tried to stop or go to the police, they'd kill both him and Emma. Emma had tried to figure out a way to help David, to get them both out safely, but the more she dug into the organization's activities, the more she realized how dangerous they were. People who crossed them disappeared. Witnesses died in accidents. Emma became convinced that David had made a deal with them, his life for hers, that the organization had decided Emma knew too much and needed to be eliminated, and David had agreed to it to save himself. In her final video, recorded the night before she died, Emma was parked somewhere dark. Rebecca thought it might be a church parking lot from what she could see in the background. "I'm meeting David tomorrow for lunch," Emma said, her voice eerily calm. He says he wants to apologize, to talk about our marriage, but I know what's really happening. They're going to kill me, and they're going to make it look like an accident or a suicide. My car will go off a bridge, or I'll drive into a tree, or there will be some tragic malfunction, and David will play the grieving husband, and no one will ever know the truth. Emma looked directly into the camera, directly at Rebecca. Becca, I know you're going to blame yourself. You're going to think you should have seen this coming, should have done something to stop it. But this isn't your fault. This is David's fault, and the fault of the people he chose to work with. Don't let them make you doubt yourself. Emma took a deep breath. I need you to do something for me. There's a safe deposit box at Citibank in Boston, box number 487. I have a copy of the key taped under the bottom drawer of my desk at home, the one with the false bottom. In that box is everything I've collected about David's activities, account numbers, names, dates, transactions, everything. Take it to the FBI, make them listen, make them investigate. And Becca, Emma's voice broke, make sure David and everyone involved pays for what they did. Promise me. The video ended. Rebecca was crying, her whole body shaking with rage and grief. Emma had known. She'd known she was going to die, and she'd prepared for it. Had left behind evidence, had made sure Rebecca would understand what really happened. We need to get that safe deposit box, Detective Sullivan said. He looked grim, but energized. And we need to move on this now, before anyone realizes we have these videos. Rebecca, where are you going to stay tonight? With my parents in Providence, but I want to be kept updated on everything. You will be, I promise. As Rebecca drove back to Providence that night, her phone rang. Unknown number. She answered cautiously. Rebecca Morgan? A man's voice, calm and professional. Who is this? You can call me a friend. I'm calling to give you some advice. Your sister made some very serious accusations in those videos. Accusations that could hurt a lot of innocent people. Rebecca's blood ran cold. How do you know about the videos? We know about everything, Ms. Morgan. We've been watching your sister for months. We know she made false accusations against her husband out of paranoia and mental illness. We know she was planning to commit suicide and frame him for murder. And we know you've been spreading her lies to the police. They weren't lies. Emma was murdered. Your sister drove her car off a bridge, Miss Morgan. There's no evidence of foul play. The medical examiner ruled it an accident. If you continue to push this narrative of murder, you're only going to hurt your family and damage your sister's memory. Do you really want people to know she was mentally unstable, that she was a liar? Emma wasn't lying. She had evidence that will never see the light of day. The FBI isn't interested in pursuing this case. The police have closed the investigation. Your sister's death was a tragic accident, nothing more. Accept that and move on with your life. And if I don't, there was a pause. Then you'll end up like your sister. Accidents happen, Ms. Morgan. It would be a shame if you had one too. The call ended. Rebecca immediately called Detective Sullivan, her hands shaking so badly she could barely hold the phone. They know, she said when he answered. They know about the videos. They just called and threatened me. Damn it. Okay, I'm sending officers to your parents' house right now. Don't stop anywhere. Don't talk to anyone. Go straight there and wait for my people. We're going to protect you, Rebecca, I promise. But as Rebecca drove through the dark night toward Providence, she couldn't shake the feeling that Emma's final message, that recording sent 3 hours after her death, hadn't been paranoia or staged drama. It had been a warning, and Rebecca was about to learn just how far dangerous people would go to keep their secrets buried. The next morning, Rebecca woke to find 2 police officers stationed outside her parents' house. Detective Sullivan arrived at 8 a.m. with news. We got a warrant for David Morgan's arrest last night. We also executed search warrants on his home, his office, and his safety deposit boxes. Rebecca, your sister was right about everything. We found evidence of money laundering, connections to organized crime, everything Emma documented in her videos. Where is he now? In custody. He's talking, trying to cut a deal. He's giving us names, account numbers, the whole network. Turns out David was just one small piece of a massive operation. Your sister stumbled onto something much bigger than we realized. Did he admit to killing her? Sullivan hesitated. He says he didn't know they were going to kill her. He says he was told they were just going to scare her into keeping quiet. But the FBI's technical team found something on his computer, a program that allows you to schedule phone calls from spoofed numbers. The call you received at 2:47 p.m. was sent by David using your sister's voice, which he recorded weeks earlier when she was screaming at him during an argument. Rebecca felt sick. So that call, it wasn't Emma. It was David using her voice, trying to make me think she died later than she actually did. Exactly. He wanted to establish an alibi. At 2:47 p.m. he was provably at work in meetings. If you thought Emma died then, he couldn't possibly be the killer, but she actually died at 11:30 when David could have been involved. Was he? Did he kill her himself? We don't think so. The forensics suggest this was done by professionals. David's car never left his office parking lot that morning, and his key card shows he was in the building. But we found evidence that he gave Emma's schedule to his criminal associates. He told them exactly when and where she'd be that morning. And we found financial transfers, $50,000 deposited into an offshore account in David's name the day after Emma died. He sold her life for $50,000, Rebecca said, her voice hollow. People have been killed for less. I'm sorry, Rebecca. I know this isn't easy to hear. The safe deposit box. Did you get it? We did. Emma was thorough. She had documentation going back 3 years, detailing every suspicious transaction, every interaction between David and the criminal organization, everything. With her evidence and David's cooperation, we're going to be able to take down a network that's been operating for over a decade. Your sister's death won't be in vain. Over the following weeks, the case dominated local news. David Morgan was charged with conspiracy to commit murder and money laundering. 8 other people were arrested, including the hitman, who'd forced Emma's car off the Tobin Bridge by ramming it from behind. Forensics had found paint transfer that proved this. The woman David had the affair with was also arrested. She'd been part of the criminal organization all along, assigned to compromise him. Rebecca attended every court hearing, sitting in the gallery with her parents, watching David's face as prosecutors laid out the evidence of his betrayal. He never looked at her. Not once. The mystery of the phone call was finally explained in technical detail. David had recorded Emma's voice during an argument 3 weeks before her death, when she'd been screaming at him about the affair. He'd used audio editing software to create the message, "Becky, Becky, help me, please, someone help me. The car, the bridge, I can't," cutting together fragments of Emma's voice into a new sentence. Then he'd used a program to spoof Emma's phone number and schedule the call to be sent exactly 3 hours after he knew Emma would be killed. It was elaborate, calculated, designed to establish his alibi while simultaneously traumatizing Rebecca. The cruelty of it took Rebecca's breath away. Emma's funeral was held on a grey October day, almost 2 weeks after her death. Hundreds of people attended, her students, their parents, fellow teachers, friends from throughout her life. The principal of her school gave a eulogy about Emma's dedication and kindness. Sophie flew in from Seattle and spoke about Emma's loyalty and strength. When it was Rebecca's turn to speak, she stood at the podium and looked out at the crowd. She'd prepared remarks, safe things about Emma's life and legacy, but standing there she found herself saying something else entirely. "My sister died because she tried to do the right thing," Rebecca said. She discovered her husband was involved in criminal activities, and instead of ignoring it or pretending not to know, she documented everything. She gathered evidence. She tried to stop it. And because of that courage, because of that integrity, she was murdered. There were gasps from the crowd. People knew David had been arrested, but the full story hadn't been made public yet. Emma knew they were going to kill her, Rebecca continued. She knew it days before it happened, and she could have run, she could have disappeared. But instead, she made videos explaining everything. She gathered evidence. She made sure that even if they succeeded in killing her, they wouldn't get away with it. That's who my sister was. She was brave when it would have been easier to be a coward. She stood up to evil when it would have been safer to look away. Rebecca's voice broke. I loved my sister more than I can express. Losing her is like losing half of myself. But I'm grateful that her last act was one of courage, that she didn't die helplessly or passively. She fought back in the only way she could, by making sure the truth would come out. And because of her, 8 dangerous criminals are going to prison. Because of her, other people won't be victimized by this organization. Her death mattered. Her life mattered. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure people remember that. After the service, as people filed out of the church, an older woman approached Rebecca. She was well dressed, perhaps in her 60s, with kind eyes. Ms. Morgan, I'm Margaret Sullivan, Detective Sullivan's mother. I wanted to tell you that your sister was incredibly brave, and what she did made a real difference. My son works these cases every day, seeing the worst of what people do to each other. He told me this case reminded him why he became a cop, to fight for people like your sister, people who deserve justice. Thank you, Rebecca said, genuinely moved. There's something else, Margaret continued. I don't know if this is appropriate, but I'm a woman of faith. I attend St. Mary's Church downtown, and when I heard about your sister's case, I felt compelled to pray for her. I've been praying every day since she died. Rebecca felt tears well up. She'd been struggling with faith since Emma's death, angry at a God who would let such evil exist, who would let her sister be murdered for trying to do the right thing. I appreciate that, Rebecca managed. I've been struggling with faith lately. That's understandable, Margaret said gently. But let me tell you something I've learned in 65 years of life. God doesn't always prevent bad things from happening. Free will means people can choose evil. But God can take something terrible and bring good from it. Your sister's death is stopping criminals who have hurt countless people. Her courage is inspiring others to stand up to corruption. Her story matters. That doesn't make her death okay, but it means it isn't meaningless. Rebecca found herself nodding, though she wasn't sure she fully believed it yet. But the idea brought a small measure of comfort, that Emma's death, as terrible as it was, had purpose. In December, 3 months after Emma's death, the trial began. Rebecca attended every day, listening to testimony that painted a picture of her sister's final months. Her fear, her courage, her determination to protect others even at the cost of her own safety. The hitman who'd forced Emma's car off the bridge testified in exchange for a reduced sentence. He described how they'd followed Emma that morning, waited until she was on a section of road with no witnesses, then used a stolen truck to ram her car from behind, sending it through the bridge railing. Emma had been alive when she went into the water, he admitted. She'd drowned, trapped in her sinking car, conscious and terrified. Rebecca had to leave the courtroom when she heard that testimony. The image of Emma's final moments, trapped, knowing she was about to die, was unbearable. But she returned the next day and the day after that, forcing herself to hear every detail. Emma had faced this horror. The least Rebecca could do was face the truth of what had happened to her. On December 18th, the jury found David Morgan guilty on all counts. He was sentenced to life in prison without possibility of parole. The other defendants received sentences ranging from 15 to 30 years. After the verdict, Rebecca stood on the courthouse steps facing reporters. She'd prepared a statement. Justice was served today, but it doesn't bring my sister back. Emma Morgan was a teacher, a wife, a daughter, a sister, and a friend to countless people. She was murdered because she had the courage to stand up to corruption and evil. I want her to be remembered not as a victim, but as a hero. She saved lives by what she did. She made the world safer. That's her legacy. A reporter called out a question. Ms. Morgan, your sister left behind 23 videos documenting her fears and the evidence she'd gathered. Have you watched all of them? Yes. What was the most difficult part? Rebecca thought about that final video, Emma's voice saying, "Don't blame yourself, Becca. This isn't your fault." She thought about all the moments she'd replayed in her mind, The conversations they'd had where she'd failed to realize something was wrong. The times Emma had reached out and Rebecca had been too busy with work to really listen. The most difficult part, Rebecca said slowly, was realizing my sister faced this alone. She was terrified. She knew she was in danger, and she felt like she couldn't tell me because she didn't want to burden me. I wish she'd trusted me enough to let me help her. Do you think anything could have saved her? I don't know. Maybe if she'd gone into witness protection, disappeared completely. But that wasn't who Emma was. She wasn't going to abandon her students or her life out of fear. She was going to stand her ground and fight back. That's who she was. 6 months after Emma's death, Rebecca made a decision. She couldn't continue practicing corporate law, couldn't spend her days reviewing contracts and negotiating deals when her sister had died, trying to expose corporate corruption. She needed to do something that mattered. She quit her job at the law firm and joined the Massachusetts Attorney General's office in their Public Integrity Division, prosecuting corruption and financial crimes. It was a massive pay cut, but money didn't matter anymore. Purpose mattered. Meaning mattered. Honoring Emma's memory mattered. Her first major case involved a real estate developer who'd been laundering money through property transactions, eerily similar to what David had been doing. Rebecca threw herself into the case with an intensity that surprised even her supervisors. She worked 16-hour days, tracked down every lead, built an airtight case. When the developer was convicted, Rebecca thought of Emma. This is for you, she thought. Every criminal we stop, every victim we protect, it's all for you. She also started a foundation in Emma's name to help whistleblowers and witnesses in financial crimes cases. The Emma Morgan Foundation provided legal assistance, security services, and counseling for people who discovered corruption and were trying to report it safely. Rebecca funded it initially with money from a wrongful death lawsuit against David and his employer, then raised additional funds through speaking engagements and donations. One evening in late spring, almost a year after Emma's death, Rebecca sat in her apartment going through old photos. She found one from their childhood, Emma and Rebecca at age 7, identical twins grinning at the camera, arms around each other. They'd been inseparable once. When had they started drifting apart? Had it been gradual, the natural result of building separate adult lives? Or had there been a specific moment when the distance had begun? Rebecca couldn't pinpoint it, but she knew that in Emma's final months, when her sister had needed her most, Rebecca had been too absorbed in her own life to see what was happening, too busy with work deadlines and client meetings to notice that Emma's cheerfulness had been forced, her optimism brittle. She'd failed her sister. Not in causing her death. She knew intellectually that David and his criminal partners bore that responsibility, but in not being there when Emma had been scared and alone, in not paying close enough attention to see the signs that something was terribly wrong. Rebecca knew Margaret Sullivan was right, that good had come from Emma's death, that her courage had stopped criminals and helped other victims. But Rebecca would trade all of that good in an instant to have her sister back, alive and safe. Her phone rang. Detective Sullivan. Rebecca, I wanted to let you know, we just arrested 3 more people connected to David's case. Emma's evidence helped us trace the money even further up the organization. We're dismantling this entire network. That's good news. There's something else. We found a letter. Emma wrote it and mailed it to herself at her parents' address in Providence. It was returned as undeliverable and has been sitting in a postal facility for months. Your mother just picked it up today and opened it. Rebecca, it's addressed to you. Rebecca's heart stopped. What? Emma mailed it 2 days before she died. It's dated September 9th. Your mother is bringing it to you now. 30 minutes later, Rebecca's mother arrived with a manila envelope, worn from its journey through the postal system. Rebecca's name was written on it in Emma's handwriting. With shaking hands, Rebecca opened it and pulled out several handwritten pages. Dearest Becca, if you're reading this, it means I'm gone. It means they succeeded. I'm so sorry for putting you through this, for leaving you alone, for all the pain you must be feeling right now. I know you're probably angry with me for not telling you what was happening. I can picture you, furious that I kept secrets, that I tried to handle this on my own, that I didn't give you the chance to help me. You're right to be angry. I should have trusted you. I should have let you in. But Becca, I need you to understand something. I didn't tell you because I was trying to protect you. The people David got involved with, they're dangerous beyond anything we've ever encountered. If they'd known you were aware of their activities, they would have killed you too. I couldn't risk that. I couldn't risk losing you. So, yes, I lied. I lied about the pregnancy because I needed you to believe I had hope, that I was planning for a future. I didn't want my last months with you to be filled with fear and suspicion. I wanted us to have some normal moments, some happiness before the end. I know by now you've probably found my videos and the evidence I gathered. I hope it's enough to stop them. I hope my death accomplishes something, saves someone else from being hurt by these people. If it does, then maybe it wasn't meaningless. But that's not why I'm writing this letter. I'm writing because there are things I need to say to you, sister to sister, twin to twin, things I might not have time to say otherwise. First, thank you. Thank you for 34 years of being my other half, my best friend, my constant companion. Growing up, people always tried to make us compete with each other, to compare us, to treat us as individuals instead of the unit we were. But we never let them divide us. We were always the twins, always together, always a team. That was the greatest gift of my life. Do you remember when we were 8 and that bully at school, Tommy Henderson, pushed me off the swing? You marched right up to him and pushed him back, even though he was twice your size. You got detention for it, but you didn't care. You said nobody hurts your sister and gets away with it. I've always carried that with me. The knowledge that someone loves me enough to fight for me, even when it costs them something. Second, I need you to forgive David. I know that sounds impossible right now. I know you're probably filled with rage toward him, and you have every right to be. He betrayed me. He betrayed our marriage. And yes, he played a part in my death, even if he didn't pull the trigger himself. But Becca, David is weak, not evil. He made terrible choices because he was scared and selfish and foolish. The people who recruited him, who blackmailed him, who pushed him into this, they're the truly evil ones. David is just broken, and spending his life in prison will be punishment enough. Don't waste your energy hating him. It will only poison you. Third, and this is the most important thing, I need you to live. Really live, Becca. Not just go through the motions, not just exist, but truly live with joy and purpose and love. I know losing me is going to hurt. I know you're going to want to shut down, to protect yourself from ever being hurt like this again. Don't do that. Fall in love if you haven't already. If you have, hold on to that love with everything you've got. Have children if you want them. Travel to all those places we always talked about visiting, eat amazing food and watch beautiful sunsets and dance in the rain and do all the things I won't get to do. Live enough for both of us. And please, please don't blame yourself. I know you, Becca. I know you're going to torture yourself with what-ifs. What if you'd paid more attention? What if you'd asked more questions? What if you'd somehow prevented this? Stop. You couldn't have saved me. This was going to happen no matter what you did. The only thing you could have done differently is die alongside me, and that would have destroyed me. I want you to know something else. That phone call you're going to receive from me after I die, that's not me. David recorded my voice and is going to use it to manipulate you somehow. I don't know exactly what he's planning, but I know he's been acting strange, asking me weird questions, recording our arguments on his phone. Whatever you hear, whatever that message says, it's not really me. It's David using my voice against you. Don't let it mess with your head. There's one more thing I need to tell you, and it's going to sound strange, but I need you to hear it. I'm not afraid. Not anymore. 2 days ago, I would have told you I was terrified, that I was having panic attacks, that I couldn't sleep. But something changed last night. I couldn't sleep, so I went for a walk. It was about 2 a.m., and I ended up at St. Mary's Church downtown. The door was unlocked. They leave it open all night for people who need sanctuary. I went inside and just sat there in the darkness, looking at the stained glass windows barely visible in the moonlight. And Becca, I felt something. I don't know if it was God or my own mind, or just exhaustion playing tricks on me, but I felt peace. I felt like someone was telling me it was going to be okay, that I wasn't alone, that my life mattered and my death would matter, and that the people I love would be okay eventually. I'm not a particularly religious person. You know that. I go to church on Christmas and Easter, and that's about it. But in that moment, sitting in that empty church at 2 a.m., I believed. I believed that there's something more than this life, something beyond death, something that makes all our suffering and struggle meaningful. So when it happens, when they kill me, I won't be afraid. I'll be thinking of you, of Mom and Dad, of all the people I love. And I'll be at peace knowing that I did the right thing, that I fought back against evil in the only way I could. I love you, Becca. I love you more than I can express in words. You've been my constant, my anchor, my home. Thank you for being my sister. Thank you for being my twin. Thank you for 34 years of shared life. Don't mourn me forever. Miss me, yes. Remember me, absolutely. But don't let grief consume you. That's not what I want. I want you to take the love we shared and use it to fuel something beautiful in your life. Help people, make the world better, love fiercely, live fully, and maybe when you're doing something wonderful, helping someone in need or laughing with friends or watching a sunset, take a moment to think of me. I'll be there in spirit, cheering you on, so proud of the incredible woman you are. I have to go now. I'm mailing this to Mom and Dad's house because I know you check their mail sometimes. If everything works out and I survive this somehow, I'll intercept it and we'll laugh about how dramatic I'm being. But if I don't survive, well, then you'll find this eventually, and you'll know everything I wanted to say. Be brave, Becca. Be strong. But most of all, be happy. That's all I want for you. Your twin, your other half, your sister always. Emma P.S. Do you remember our secret language from when we were kids? The one we made up so we could talk to each other without anyone else understanding? I've been thinking about it a lot lately. We used to say LTBA to each other. Love transcends all barriers. We'd write it in birthday cards and text it during hard times. It was our way of saying that no matter what happened, no matter how far apart we were physically, our love connected us. LTBA, Becca. Always and forever. Even death can't break the bond we share. I'll always be with you, in every memory, every shared joke, every moment that reminds you of me. Love transcends all barriers, even the barrier between life and death. LTBA. Rebecca clutched the letter to her chest, sobbing so hard she couldn't breathe. Her mother wrapped her arms around her, and they cried together. For Emma, for all that was lost, for all that could never be recovered. But through the grief, Rebecca felt something else. Gratitude. Emma had known she was going to die, and she'd spent her final days not in despair, but in preparation, making videos, gathering evidence, writing this letter. She'd faced her death with courage and clarity, thinking not of herself, but of the people she'd leave behind. And Emma had been right about so much, right that Rebecca would blame herself, right that Rebecca would need permission to live fully after such a loss, right that love transcends all barriers. Over the following months and years, Rebecca carried Emma's letter with her always, reading it whenever she needed strength or guidance or just a connection to her sister. She read it before her first trial in the Attorney General's office. She read it when the Emma Morgan Foundation helped its first whistleblower. She read it on what would have been Emma's 40th birthday. And slowly, gradually, Rebecca found her way back to joy. Not the uncomplicated joy of her life before Emma's death, that was gone forever, but a deeper, harder-won joy that coexisted with grief, the joy of meaningful work, the joy of helping others, the joy of living fully, the way Emma had asked her to. 3 years after Emma's death, Rebecca stood at the Tobin Bridge where Emma had died. A small memorial plaque had been placed there, funded by Emma's former students and their parents, in memory of Emma Morgan, teacher, sister, hero. Her courage saved lives, her love transcends all barriers. Rebecca traced the letters with her fingers, tears streaming down her face. But she was smiling too, because she knew Emma would have been embarrassed by the word hero, but secretly pleased by it. "I'm living, Em," Rebecca whispered. "I'm doing everything you asked. I'm helping people. I'm making a difference. And I'm happy, not all the time, but enough to know that you'd be proud of me." The wind picked up, whipping across the bridge, and Rebecca closed her eyes. For just a moment, she could almost hear Emma's voice. Not the terrified scream from that impossible phone call, but Emma's laugh, warm and familiar and full of life. LTBA, Becca, always and forever. LTBA, Rebecca whispered back, always and forever. She stood there for a few more minutes, then turned and walked back to her car. There was work to do, a new case to prepare, a foundation meeting to attend, a life to live. Emma's legacy wasn't just in the criminals she'd helped convict or the evidence she'd gathered. It was in every choice Rebecca made to honor her sister's memory by living courageously, loving fiercely, and fighting for justice. The mystery of that phone call, that impossible voice from beyond death, remained unexplained in some ways. The technical explanation was clear. David had used Emma's recorded voice to create a fake message, but the emotional truth was deeper. Emma had reached out to her sister one last time, had made sure Rebecca heard her voice, had ensured that even in death, the bond between them remained unbroken. Love transcends all barriers, even death itself. And as Rebecca drove away from the bridge, where her sister had died, heading toward a future Emma would never see but had helped shape, she knew that was true.